See, for years, JP Morgan was the bad guy in the metals market. Most of my adult life, the entire time I've been trading silver, they were always the bad guy. They're not the third leg of that chain anymore. That triangle trade is broken down. Otherwise, we'd still be at $24 an ounce silver, $2,000 an ounce gold. When the price moves against you and you're caught short, and you're sitting on contracts that you wrote 6 months ago, no, the United States has decided they want gold and silver repriced as collateral, and they want pricing leverage over that collateral, and therefore they're cutting London out of the market.
These are big changes.
The Chinese finally said that's enough.
Well, then who's pulling the strings behind the scenes? Is it Davos? Is it the city of London?
It's always London. It's always London.
Good evening. On Friday,
Bing bong. We are back with another edition of the State of Bitcoin podcast, where I've got the man, the myth, the legend, recurring guest, Tom Luongo, who's been fired up pre-show. But Tom, we got to dive into the gold and silver markets, because what the hell is going on? There's been talks of the short squeeze, the JP Morgan's potentially manipulating, China maybe manipulating the market. Why the hell is the gold and silver markets just freaking out right now?
You expect silver to go up 400% in 6 months, and then there not to be volatility. I mean, I'm just like throwing it out there to everybody who's like, oh my god. Everybody's got a theory, and Vince Lanci let everybody know that JP Morgan was holding the market back for 3 weeks, saying, look, guys, like they refused to let any of their exchange metal go from registered from eligible to registered, from eligible to registered, and therefore there's no COMEX good for delivery bars. Like, it wasn't that difficult. Like, most of the guys in the space who know what they're talking about, and there are only 4 or 5 of them. Most of the people talking about gold and silver don't even understand how the goddamn market works. But they like to talk because it's a good business to talk on social media anymore. And this is a theme today. I'm in high dudgeon. Like you got me started like on StreamYard. Like, I can't believe we're doing this fucking shit on StreamYard. But that's, just like say no to Microsoft wherever you can, unless you happen to be a gamer. Not that, like if you're going to use Zoom, it's Chinese malware, and they're already scraping our fucking data anyway. So what the hell? At least have a decent picture and some decent sound. But that's neither here nor there. Same thing with gold and silver. Like, at the end of the day, Jim Sinclair told us 20 years ago, the people who are going to make the most money in the gold and silver bull runs are going to be the very people who you hate. Get used to it. The market makers, the banks, the bullion banks, everybody else, they're the ones who are going to make all the money. You're going to make some money along the way if you're smart and you leave 20% in the top and bottom for the God of greed. Meaning, wherever they move the price to, on the downside or the upside, you're never going to see the bottom and you're never going to get the top, because you don't have access to that. So the other day, perfect example, right? Friday morning or last Friday morning, wake up, gold's at $5,500 an ounce. It's trading there for a little bit. Maybe if you're trading futures, you might have been able to like slip in there and get a contract cleared at that price or not. I don't know. I don't play those markets because I know better. And I know myself to be, well, you guys have seen me do a podcast or two. You know how volatile I can be. That's not a good mindset for being an options or a futures trader. So therefore, I don't do it for a living. No, I'm much more comfortable behind the microphone than behind the trading screen. But you might be able to get that. But the reality is you probably got 52.50, because those things were all happening. All those trades were happening while New York was closed. So unless you're trading in the London market, or you're trading in the Shanghai market, or you're trading in Tokyo or whatever, like how do you think you're going to get that price? The people who were trying to turn in their physical silver, they had the problem of the market had moved so far so fast that the refiners were tapped out, the banks were tapped out in terms of credit in order to buy more silver. So there was plenty of supply for silver to be brought into the market to go to be refined and moved. The problem was, of course, that there weren't enough 1,000-ounce good for delivery LBMA and COMEX bars. right, to deliver into the contract. Now, I was thinking about this when it was happening. I was doing shows on like Thursday and Friday of last week, and I said, yeah, I wonder why that is. Do you think maybe the banks like said no more credit to the dealers and the refiners? Do you think they also turned around that London didn't tell the refiners to stop delivering, to stop refining metal? Why would they do that? Well, because they knew at some point that the emotional roller coaster would hit its peak, and then it would correct, and they never want to deliver into the peak. Like, let's remind ourselves about that. If you're the LBMA, if you're in London, if you're constantly manipulating the price of silver, especially silver, down as low as possible, keep it in the teens for years so that we're like doing stupid shit with it, like building solar panels, okay? Then you're going to, when the price moves against you and you're caught short and you're sitting on contracts that you wrote forward 6 months ago at $35 strike price, $30 strike price, do you really want to pay out at 120? If the metal shows up, then you have to deliver it. But if the metal doesn't show up and you can break the market on the last trading day of the month, which is what they did before the delivery period, then you can only have to deliver at $85 an ounce or $80 an ounce or $78 an ounce or whatever it is. And so remember the old adage that these terrible people never want to go for discovery in a lawsuit. You know, when they're sued, you know, you got a bank and the banks got caught doing something terrible, or, you know, Prince Andrew got caught doing something terrible or whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. What always happens, the lawsuit gets filed, they start the wrangle between the lawyers, and then the minute the thing looks like it's going to go to discovery, because they're actually going to go to the lawsuit, they settle out of court all of a sudden. Like Elon Musk did this game when he went to buy Twitter. They screwed around. They put them over on price and valuation for 6 months, and he finally said, "You know what? Fine, let's just go to court." The minute he finally said, "No, we're going to court," that was on Tuesday. By Friday, he was walking into Twitter with the kitchen sink, having bought the company at their fictitious valuation. He just stopped fighting it. It's the same thing here. They don't want to deliver silver at $120 an ounce, right? Because if they do, then they have to mark their losses to market. Then they have to mark that contract they wrote at $35 an ounce. They have to write an $85 loss per contract. Start doing the math at 1,000 ounces times $85. That's what, $850,000 a contract. You write 500 contracts like that. That's real money. That's not notional value of derivatives. Bob. That's notional becomes net. Boom, you owe me $85 million or $350 million, and you got to come up with that cash immediately. And you got to come up with the silver. Right? You got to come up with 5 million ounces of silver, which you don't have, and you got to book the $85 million, and you got to book the loss on top of it. You got to deliver the silver and book the loss. Crash the price into the 70s or 80s, and the people who went long at $75 are stopped out flat on higher margin requirements and everything else. They're stopped out, and they settle out a loss. Those contracts write themselves off, and eventually you can do a lot they can do a lot to limit the damage. So they only have to deliver a third of that metal into the market at half the amount of losses or whatever. And that's what they were doing. But JP Morgan was on the long side of the trade, restricting the supply of good for delivery bars, going, "We have you." And that's to every silver stacker's advantage. See, for years, JP Morgan was the bad guy in the metals market. Most of my adult life, the entire time I've been trading silver, or buying silver and putting it on the sidelines or whatever, and commenting on it. This goes back to 2002, right? 2002, 2001, 2002 is when I first started stacking silver. They were always the bad guy. Sure, they were the market maker. They were the bullion bank. They were going to make money on both sides of the trade, yada, yada, yada. They were helping to run the triangle trade between the SLV, GLD, the COMEX, and the LBMA, the paper game, all of that stuff. But they're not the third leg of that chain anymore. That triangle trade is broken down. Otherwise, we'd still be at $24 an ounce silver, $2,000 an ounce gold. No, the United States has decided they want gold and silver repriced as collateral, and they want pricing leverage over that collateral, and therefore they're cutting London out of the market. They and the Chinese have finally said that's enough. We're the 21st century industrial powers. You're the 19th century industrial powers. You don't get to tell us what the price of silver and gold is. You don't get to tell us what the price of our dollar is. You don't get to tell us what the price of our collateral is. Because once you reprice gold and silver at $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 an ounce gold to 100, 200, 300 an ounce silver, all of a sudden the U.S.'s balance sheet doesn't look so bad when it's got 133.5 tons of gold sitting on the Fed's balance sheet. Whereas the Bank of England has zero. All it has is a whole bunch of treasuries, which it's been trying to use as blackmail to get us to continue to be their dumb friggin' their dumb muscle, like Rambo without a jockstrap, going around the world and stomping all the fucking brown people into the dirt. Those days are over, fucked heads. Sorry, limeys. We're not playing that game anymore. We're the U.S. We're the exceptional nation. Us and China are saying that's enough. We want pricing leverage, control over all of the industrial metals, all of the physical collateral that undergirds the debt, as well as the industrial inputs that drive our economies. Because you guys can't even build a ship anymore. You used to be the world's biggest naval power. You guys can't even field a friggin' tugboat. Like, you got to buy fishing boats off of the French. What the fuck's wrong with you? Or whatever the hell. I mean, I'm making that last part up, but just like, what would be the most insulting thing for a British fisherman to have to do? Buy a fishing boat from the French.
What if I told you never had to sell your Bitcoin? Instead, you can borrow against it with Salt Lending. Why give up your hard-earned Bitcoin when you can unlock its value without letting it go? With Salt, you get secure Bitcoin collateralized loans with no credit checks, no prepayment fees, and best of all, no rehypothecation. Salt has had 0 customer collateral losses since it launched. Salt was the first platform to offer Bitcoin collateralized loans starting way back in 2016. Today, they offer tailored options for both individuals and businesses. And now introducing Salt Shield, the no liquidation solution. No forced liquidations during the lifetime of your loan when you're enrolled with Salt Shield. This just launched at the Bitcoin conference in Las Vegas, and it is next level peace of mind. For Green Candle listeners only, head to saltlending.com/green-candle for this exclusive offer for your Bitcoin collateralized loan. You can get cash for your Bitcoin today. Salt Lending, secure, trusted, proven. Hey, I mean, that's all fair to say, but you said something interesting.
While drinking a Belgian white as opposed to a brown ale, a Newcastle brown ale or whatever, an English brown ale.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe drinking coffee instead of tea or something like that, or going to the orthodontist. I don't know, man. Something crazy.
Well, I don't know, eating meat that isn't a week old, or
Exactly. But you said something interesting there about the
baked beans for breakfast. What the fuck's wrong with you? Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You said something about the timing there, which is interesting. Do you think this is all coordinated to be specifically around the end of this month? And, what role did Davos potentially play in this? Because Davos was just a couple weeks ago as well.
Davos was, the World Economic Forum,
yeah.
Davos, not Davos, the group, right? So the people versus the thing. Trump's performance at Davos and his whole crew was masterful. They just basically walked in and said, yeah, we do have the biggest dick. These are our balls, and they are made out of solid gold, and there they are on the table. Not only did they do that, because that and then the sight of manly anything, that's what actually spooked Christine Lagarde. That's why she had to run, because her little Adam's apple went a quiver, and then she had to run. Yeah, I said that out loud. Sorry, I've been making that joke for years. So, not that I actually think she's a tranny, but goddamn, she acts like it sometimes. So, unlike Emmanuel Macron's husband, wife, father, whatever. So the point being is that he went to Davos, told them all that globalism failed, started, educating them on the Alexander Hamilton system of of as my friend Susan Kokindle likes to put it, a political economy, and the third way between the false dyad of finance capitalism versus communism, which is the only thing we're allowed to actually talk about on the 3x5 index card of political discussion, as Tom Woods used to describe it. And he's right. That's where we are, and that's where we're moving to, and they don't like that at all. So if you're going to make that pronouncement, right? If you're going to state categorically that Europe has no financial tools with which to hurt the United States, and both Bessent and Trump said this, well, then you take your bullion banks and you run a squeeze play on the baked beans that pass for nuts for Keir Starmer, and you put them in a vice, and you keep squeezing that vice until they finally cry uncle, or until someone's made enough money that we can let the pressure off, let the markets reset a little bit. We're trading this morning $4,900 gold, $88 silver. May throw a 1 bar daily reversal on the gold chart today, and if we did that, wow. Honestly, I think that last week was probably a nice big emotional high for the quarter, for the first half of the year. I mean, that would be my odds-on bet. If I had to place a probability on it, say we probably hit 75% hit a nice big emotional high at $5,500 an ounce. Then we'll just kind of consolidate a lot of these gains in the first half of this year, and then we'll decide what we're going to do next. But I say that knowing full well that walking in with the big golden balls and the tray full of bags of flaming poop, while he had Stephen Miller yell pull, and he's blowing it up all over Davos for an hour and a half. During that speech, I'm like, things could accelerate from here because they're running out of time to stop Trump from remaking America. And everybody out there screaming that Trump is not doing enough needs to get their fucking head examined. And he's accelerating the pace on all of the domestic issues, while at the same time they're accelerating the pace on trying to run a civil war operation against the U.S. in places like Minneapolis and Washington, Seattle, and L.A. and everywhere else. And he's sending Customs and Border Patrol, the DNI and the FBI everywhere to uncover the voting fraud, to put pressure on Thune to pass the SAVE Act. If the SAVE Act passes, the Democrats know they're done. Half the rhinos in Congress know that their careers are over. This is why they won't pass it, right? They've been told flat out, don't pass this, because then the Democrats can't steal 50 House seats in the fall, when they can't steal 5 Senate seats, right? So, this is for all the marbles. So in that scenario, Six Sigma events become One Sigma events, and they may happen every other week. And, as analysts, we never want to go out there and say, oh my God, the world's going to, I've gotten to the point now where I can't do that anymore. That whole, this is the end of the world, and, to sell clicks and everything else. I'm not playing that game. I won't play that game. I won't sit there and say, the end of the dollar is 6 months out, or blah, blah, all this fucking rotten shit. It's possible that the whole thing blows up in the next 6 months. Is it probable? Do cooler heads prevail? Do we go to violence in the United States? Is that violence snuffed out immediately? Is it headed off at the pass? I mean, a lot of the violence in Minnesota was headed off at the pass. So the potential violence. So I don't know. No one knows. And so I always just say, beware of any analyst or any commentator selling you on some huge thing that's going to happen. Not because I don't believe that those huge things can't happen, but because there's too many variables for any of us to properly assess as to which one is going to be dominant, because everybody gets a vote as to how these moves are going to play out. I mean, you can script it out I'll use that like what I normally do. I'll use that the stupid board game analogy. Well, if you go there, then I go there, and if you go there, then I go there, and you go. And the question is somebody always half a step ahead of you. I've played many a game where I've been half a step behind the leader of and I can see it the entire time. And, I don't know if Trump is half a step ahead or half a step behind. I'd like to believe that he's half a step ahead, right? I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't want to live in a fucking world where Davos wins this thing, right? Do you? Because I don't give a shit where you live in. You're not going to be unaffected by it. Fucking off to South America or Equatorial Africa or wherever it is you think you're safe from because you expatted and you got your money saved and you got your Bitcoin on a Trezor. And news for you, folks. This shit goes bad and it's going to be how many guns do you own? Are you live in a jurisdiction where you can, secure canned sardines and toilet paper? Because that's the scenario that's ahead of us. They're going to enforce the breakdown of society on us to the point where they do, make the Georgia Guidestones real. And they do break us down to 500 million or 1 billion people. I got news for you. Global economy does not operate at 1 billion people, period. It just does not at the current standard of living. And so, the only good thing that came out of all those freaking Marvel movies is that Thanos rides with Davos. And they have the exact same plan. Except, of course, the Marvel movies were so ideologically compromised that they thought, they tried to make you feel like Thanos, deserved some sympathy with his worldview. His worldview shit.
Well, I mean, I'm curious because I've heard you say in previous podcasts that you think that 2026 could be the potential of a civil war here in the U.S.
Sure.
What has that opinion changed within the past 30 days or so? And
No.
I guess let's dive into why that might break out here. Last bull run, we had exchanges blow up. You saw FTX, Celsius, BlockFi, you name it. But the true power of Bitcoin is getting it off an exchange into cold storage. This bull run, I'm trusting Trezor, the company that's been around for over a decade, and they just had a brand new release of the best hardware wallet in the game, the Trezor Safe 7. It's got the first audible secure element. No other hardware wallet has this. On top of it, I travel a lot, so I need an easy way to connect my Bitcoin hardware wallet to my laptop, phone, what have you. Therefore, it is the easiest way and has the best connectivity to access your Bitcoin. This is truly how you become your own bank, and the best way to do that is with the Trezor Safe 7. So you could go to the affiliate link down below and get yourself one right now, and do it quickly because they are flying off the shelves, folks. So do it with the easiest and best way to get your Bitcoin off exchanges. So go to the affiliate link down below, get yourself a Trezor Safe 7, and get your Bitcoin off exchanges in the easiest way possible. All right, enough from me. Let's get back to the show.
Okay. I mean, look, they're clearly running out of moves on the board. We're at $5,000 an ounce gold. All the countries that have some stacking gold are watching their balance sheets improve, right? What have I said for a long time? That eventually, for years within the alternative currency space, within the gold and silver space, within the Bitcoin space, so the Fed's evil. The Fed is sitting on the price of gold because they want to make the dollar look good and blah 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 blah, right? And 3 years ago, I kept saying to everybody, what's going to bake your noodle is the day that the Fed starts, not sitting on the gold price because they need to have the collateral, the hard assets on their balance sheet rise in value in order to offset the size of their balance sheet. And everybody's, so you're crazy, you're a lunatic, you're a Fed apologist, you're a Russian shill, you're a Zionist, you're part of the $7,000 club, blah, 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 whatever. I don't care. I just been right. Right. So, because incentives are incentives. And at the end of the day, banks have to shore up both the liabilities and the assets on their balance sheets. At the end of the day, the Fed is just an organization like anything else trying to survive, right? I'm not saying that the Fed doesn't need to be reformed or anything like that. I never said any of that stuff, just like looking at the game board from the Fed's perspective. So, that was one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is what happens when you get a sovereigntist, you get a bunch of sovereigntists in charge of the U.S. Treasury, you get and the executive branch. What happens then? What does that look like? Well, we're a year out. We're 9 months out since the tantrum where, we're staring at trueflation under 1%. We're staring at $64 a barrel, $65 a barrel Brent crude, gasoline futures under $1.90, right? I mean, where are we going? And housing and a rotation in housing prices in overpriced markets is starting to come down. And those markets are starting to come down overall. So, I mean, at the end of the day, like, everybody was wrong about what was going to happen next. So now let's take that off. Let's talk about that. Why were the conditions before that, that got Trump elected in November of 2024? It was clearly an operation to make the United States as expensive as possible in order to price Americans out of their own economy and their own livelihood by giving all their friggin' tax money to fucking illegals, which is what they did. They gave $2 trillion a year in friggin' taxes to a bunch of fucking IQ 65 Somalis, who then laundered the money and handed it off to all the NGOs, who then had the goddamn nerve to stand there and go, well, you have to pay us $1 trillion a year in friggin' interest payments on all this debt. And everybody's like, oh, the fiscal numbers are so bad, it can't get any better. Like, okay, then if you want it that way, guys, then why do you think there's not going to be violence on one side or the other here? Because I got news for you. Ain't no way that 250 million or 300 million real Americans with more guns than the rest of the world combined are not going to get violent when you decide you want to destroy our country. Got news for you. But that's what London wants. They want us to go to war with the illegals and start shooting. I mean, they want everybody to start shooting each other. So they've been running guns and illegals and terror cells and everything else into the United States, getting set up for all this stuff, while they radicalize, awfuls to run around and, work out their psychosexual tension with fucking ICE agents. Like, I hate to be rude or anything, but no, I shouldn't say this one. I won't say that. No, that's beyond the pale even for me. I'll say it privately. So, yeah, I found my limit. My limit is that joke. So what's Davos's plan has always been to do this. So they're going to try it. So they've got these kids running around setting up the new versions of the Chaz in Minneapolis. They've got traders within law enforcement and within the Minnesota government, tracking the license plate numbers of ICE vehicles and running around doing. I mean, like, this is all literal civil war insurrectionist behavior. They're doing it, and they're not just doing it in Minnesota. They're doing it all over the fucking country. Like, it's already here. The Civil War is already happening. It's like World War III. World War III has been going on since 2014. Since the day the Russians since the day Crimea voted to leave, or hell, World War III started at the Maidan with the overthrow of Yanukovych. It's just been one domino topple, one series of event after another, after another, after another. Like, I'll be honest with you, our Archduke Ferdinand moment for World War III was the overthrow of Yanukovych in Ukraine. Because that meant eventually we were going to get the uprising of the Donbass, and Crimea was going to break away, and then this was going to happen. The Russians were going to move into Syria in 2015, and then here we are today. Brexit, this, that, all of these things. It's all part of the same continuum. So, the question now is, has the Trump administration fortified the aspects of the government that they have under their control to the point where it can effectively bleed off all of this nascent insurrection, revolutionary energy that's been built up? Like, the Russians have done a masterful job in their own very Russian way of just crushing the Ukrainian army that was built to destroy them. Right? The Ukrainian army was built to destroy Russia. The Russians have done what they always do. Russian military doctrine. over and over and over again, right? So, because they don't know how to do anything else, these people, they don't understand maneuver warfare. They never have. But they have to destroy the Ukrainian military, and they've got to destroy an entire 2 generations of Ukrainians to never, ever, 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 ever think again about subjugating ethnic Russians in what is today Eastern Ukraine, known as the Donbass, which is primarily Russian speaking. And that's the way they're fighting this war today. And the same thing has to happen here in the US. We're going to have to crush an entire segment of the population in the United States to never think about doing what they've been doing ever again. And that's the sad fucking reality of this, because these people are so radicalized. They're so insane. But that's okay. This is what World War III is going to look like. It's going to be a series of small encounters like this, while a bunch of ugly people, ugly, evil pedophiles, and baby bloods drinking elites and royals and everything else, try and gin up another war. But it only works if you can bamboozle the other civilizations into thinking that the other civilizations want to knock you out, and that they're all on board with wiping the board clean and wiping the board clean and starting from scratch. Clearly, Xi, Trump, and Putin do not want to do that. Clearly. And so everything else is just downstream of that. So that's where I am. And civil war, man, we're going to see bits and pieces of it. Hopefully it won't get really, really bad. But, I don't know about you. Probably, I don't know about you, but I've been buying guns. I've been, dusting them all off and getting this rifle sighted in and buying ammo, and, because I got plenty of food. Now it's just a matter of, now I need some new guns.
Well, then who's pulling the strings behind the scenes? Is it Davos? Is it the city of London?
It's always London. It's always London. Now, London is another way of saying Davos. It's the old European banking interests, the old European elites, the ones who started the wars in the 1860s and 1810s, and the ones previous to that, and it's the same fucking people. It's the same people who want to enslave humanity through debt and colonization. Produce nothing, take everything. That's who it is. It's that group of people.
Do you think
they, and what they do is they take the upper class and they set it against the lower class, when the truth is that it's the middle class that stops all the wars, because the middle class is what produces wealth, which is, but we're all still taught that, we're all bougie because we want real cheese. Like, fuck off. Like, I don't know. I don't want industrial cheese, and it's not bougie to ask for God. I'm not a member of the pampered bourgeoisie because I want cheese that doesn't suck. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's the way they've made people think. Like, oh, if you want your avocado toast, it's great. Just don't think that you get a say in how we produce the avocado toast. The avocado toast will happen, but it ain't going to happen if it ain't going to happen by over empowering the quote unquote natives and and deifying the noble savage. It doesn't work that way. Like, we built white people built the avocado toast, folks. I got news for you. So stop hating yourself. While you eat your avocado toast and bitch about white people on your fucking iPhone. All right, whatever. So I could do this one all day too.
I know you could, man, but I want to dive into the Trump's essentially like war on globalism a little bit more as well, because it seems like he kind of went to Davos and told them like it's over. Do you think he has a chance, like a legitimate shot to kind of, I guess, break free?
He does. Absolutely does. The United States is by far, still the most powerful country in the world. This is the propaganda that everybody needs to get through their fucking heads. I had to get it through my head. It took me 5 years. It took me 5 years of getting over my dissatisfaction and hatred of the fact that my country that I was brought up to believe was exceptional was just another 2-bit fucking empire like every other goddamn shitbag goddamn country that's come before us. And I'm like, no, we're not. We were subsumed into that post World War II. We were that, but we don't have to be that. And we're not. Do you see the Russians getting in our face over Iran or Israel or Palestine or Venezuela or Cuba or any of this stuff? Do you see that from the Russians? Do you see that from the Chinese? Nope. Not at all. Do you see Trump really getting in the way of Putin over Ukraine? He wants the killing to end because what he wants is a functional relationship with the Russians going forward. How is he going to get that if Europe won't stop backing Ukraine in a war against the Russians? You can't do any of this. The United States and China are not enemies. They're rivals. Both sides are doing shit to antagonize the other. The Chinese are clearly running operations all across the West Coast, into Vancouver, down into California, like all of that stuff. There's clearly Chinese influence in Ottawa, in the Democratic Party, of course. I mean, if the U.S. is going to commit ritualistic suicide, well, let's plunder the United States and make sure that they can't. I get why the Chinese would do that, but when the United States stands up and goes, "Oh, by the way, we're going to control all the flow of heavy sour oil around the world, and you're going to pay full price for it, China." That's what Venezuela was about, among many, many, many other things. But if you want to believe about the oil angle on Venezuela at all, understand that it's all about the fact that it's heavy sour, which is which is the type and kind of oil you need to run a blue water navy, which the Chinese are building fast. Now, are they building it because they want to go to war with the United States, which is what my partner Dexter White fears? Or is it just that they're central planners and they don't know what else to do with all the friggin' iron ore? Hey, let's build ships. That keeps people busy. It's like, because that's how deep their economic modeling is, right? That's Xi's this is Xi's failing as a leader. So he's got no national vision. He's just keeping people from revolting against him, right? So control that aspect of it. Now you finish Venezuela, you exfiltrate Maduro because he's got all the receipts on the 2020 election fraud, among other things, like all the Bush clan perfidy in Florida and the drug trade and Central and South America and everything else. If you don't, there's a Bush angle to that story that no one wants to talk about. And then immediately he turns around and he starts pressuring Iran. Protests in Iran, this starts happening, that starts happening. Some of that was the British trying to overthrow the mullahs so that they can stick, Reza Pahlavi in there. And the other part of it is Trump wanting to get rid of the rest of the axis of resistance. Iran is not a monolith. Iran's like 5 or 6 factions all running around trying to stay relevant and in power. And the IRGC is the British head of the axis of resistance snake that needs to be destroyed. Because remember, the British run both sides of the Iran-Israel conflict, right? And Turkey, Muslim Brotherhood, that's a British construct as well. Like, everybody's understanding of geopolitics is like, including mine for years, didn't understand a lot of these basic dynamics. The Muslim Brotherhood is just yet another, dumb British project to sow chaos in the Middle East. So we have Sunnis who hate Shias. We've got Sunnis and Shias who hate Jews, and yada, yada, yada. And then, shake the Anchar, give some, arm a faction, have them go slaughter a village, get everybody pissed off, play the game, right? Not the last 60 freaking years in a nutshell, basically. Trump's trying to do away with all that. So does he have a chance? Of course he has a chance. Why? Because the minute he moves the American military in, everybody's like, all right, fine. Shit, he's serious.
This bull run, I'm looking for ways to stack Bitcoin in my sleep, and mining has always caught my eye. I've partnered with the guys over at Simple Mining to help you do just that. I don't recommend anything that I don't use personally, so I've got a machine up and running with them right this second. And they've even opened the facility up so anyone can go and visit. They manage over 15,000 machines for 500 clients, handling all of the maintenance and repairs so you don't have to. And for the Green Candle listeners, they're giving an exclusive offer. All the repairs for the first year for free. So if you've been thinking about mining, head on over to simpleminer.io/greencandle to get this exclusive offer and learn about the potential tax benefits that you can get from mining with Simple Mining. All right, enough from me. Let's get back to the show.
When it was Obama doing this shit, everybody knew that it was the same. It was Obama was acting on behalf of the other two, people who were there, the people who were ginning up the conflict in the first place. With Trump, they don't know. And now they're finally getting it through their heads. And in many ways, he's almost giving the mullahs a way out in Iran. Let's clean up the IRGC. Let's clean up the other aspects of the axis of resistance. Obviously, Yemen, Hezbollah, and the rest of it. A lot of that money was being laundered through both Venezuela and Cuba. Cuba's about to fall because he shut off the oil flow into Cuba. They got most of their oil from Venezuela. The Cuban government's now opened up negotiations with the Trump administration. Like, we're fixing all these old conflicts without doing explicit regime change by saying we're going to pluck our dude out, your dude out, and we're going to put our guy in, right? No, he's saying, look, it's up to the people ultimately to decide. For now, in Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez gets to try and calm things down because, part of the quote-unquote legitimate government. Same thing's going to happen in Iran. Had a long talk with Joaquin Flores about Iran and the theocracy, which is just a thin veneer over their crappy technocracy. And I think everybody should listen to Joaquin's arguments about that. It's on, I don't know, one of the recent episodes of my podcast, because he taught me stuff about what's going on in Iran. The people in Iran want all this to end. They want to become part of the normal economy. And if you can get Iran back into the normal economy, and you can get them to truly do away with their nuclear weapons program, which is, by the way, a IRGC program, not a mullah program. Okay. When you think of it in those terms, all of a sudden the sanctions can come off, and now China has to buy Iranian oil at market price, and not at the current sweetheart price of somewhere around $30 or $25 a barrel, so that they can build a massive strategic petroleum reserve of heavy sour oil to run their blue water navy in case they have to go to war with the United States. Like, they get the idea of going to war with the United States later on. Because here's the thing. I don't think for a second Xi wants to go to war with the United States, but there are still factions within the CCP that are still allied with the British who would. So this is the thread that this is the needle that Trump is trying to thread, at the same time trying to work out the U.S. Civil War. But remember, the United States still has a tremendous economy. We still have the global reserve currency. I don't give a shit what anybody says. You can sit here and you can play this game. Oh, well, it's dropped to 59, or the gold is more valuable now than the gold on people's balance sheets are more valuable than the dollar. Yeah, but the gold doesn't flow. The dollars flow. Like, at the end of the day, stock doesn't matter. Flow is all that matters. Or do we not remember any of that? It's the same arguments I make about Bitcoin. At the end of the day, Bitcoin is hoarded, and therefore it doesn't flow, and therefore it's not a currency, it's a reserve asset. Right? Oh, and everybody who says that, there's no market for U.S. Treasury bonds. Really? Huh. then why does the TIC report keep reporting every month that, there's more treasuries on central bank balance sheets than there were last month? I'm just, facts contradict your feelings. Fuck your feelings. These are the facts. Now, yeah, a lot of that buying was from who? Europeans. Why? Because they're trying to defend their shitty euro. Because the euro is literally just another adjunct aspect of the euro, of the dollar hegemony. At the end of the day, it's not an expression of the yuan or the ruble or the yen. It's all the euro dollar system. The only thing that's in there, all their reserves are based on dollars. Like, fuck off with the rest of it. So, like it or not, and I know a lot of people don't want to hear this because they're so angry that the United States for having fucked everything up through the 80s, 90s, and aughts, and even into the 2010s. You got to let all that go. It's a new sheriff in town. This is the world that we're going to build, and we can build it together because we have more in common than we have than we have. I'm saying this to Bitcoiners and gold bugs and everybody else. We have more in common than you think. As a guy who stands on both sides now, goes, yeah, I'm still a gold bug, I'm still a Bitcoiner, and I'm still Trumpian because Trump is right. We can fix all this, and we can use the right power, the rights and the powers and the infrastructure of the United States. We still have the best corporate law in the world, folks. Everybody still comes in the United States. We're still everybody else's offshore tax haven. I wonder why that is. Maybe it's because everybody else's government sucks. And all we have to do is get rid of the fucking traitors and get back to the Constitution. And we're literally watching a president exercise his Article 2 powers to the limit of those Article 2 powers. And everybody's like, oh my God, he's Orange Mussolini. No, he's fucking Washington or Lincoln. This is the power that he was given, and he's running the exact same operation that Lincoln had to run. Because the Civil War was another fucking goddamn British color revolution. Start reading the world that way, start reading history that way, and it's so much more predictive and so much more explanatory of what we've seen than anything else. I'm not saying it's wholly explanatory, but start there, and then the rest of history makes so much more sense. As we watch the end of the British Empire. They took their shot at the Civil War. They took their shot in World War I. Right after the Civil War, they had to take their shot, and they had to get the United States on board to help them fight World War I. And so they inserted their people into our government. And so that by the time we got the 1913, we got the Federal Reserve, the income tax, direct election of senators, and everything else, right? They actually won the Civil War in 1913 that they lost in 1865. And then they got us to fight World War II. And then if you listen to my friend Susan Kokinda, she'll tell you, no, they killed FDR because he was going to, not going to go along with Bretton Woods and not allow Churchill to extend the British Empire one more fucking time. They put that fucking hayseed Truman in place. Now I have to wonder about whether did Dewey actually win the election or not. Remember, Dewey beats Truman, the big false headline. And we found out the next morning that Truman won. Was that the first time they stole an American election?
One of my absolute favorite things about Bitcoin is meeting all of you in person. So mark your calendars for February 28th and come down to where I've called home for the past 8 years, Tampa, Florida. The Bitcoin Bay Foundation is putting on this Sound Money Soiree. It's the 3rd annual. It's a night of Bitcoin, poker, an open bar, and a silent auction. All support will go to Bitcoin Bay, a nonprofit that is creating a circular economy down in Tampa Bay, Florida. They're doing absolutely great things, and it's the Bitcoin community that I've called home for such a long time, and these guys are absolutely crushing it. So please do anything you can to support. Buy your tickets today. You can use promo code GREENCANDLE to get 10% off your Sound Money Soiree tickets.
So do you know anything about Bitcoin?
No.
you guys can come down and see this ugly mug. Come boogie on the dance floor, shake it, and now that Bitcoin's over 100K, you can do it all with your girlfriends. All right, enough from me. Let's get back into the show. It's a great question.
I put it out there for everybody to consider. My dog agrees with me clearly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've been talking about Trump and for a while, but you've also been talking about Jerome Powell. So I kind of want to dive into him because obviously his reign is coming to a close here in May, and then Trump has Kevin Warsh kind of coming in, and that's seemingly dumped the metals market, dumped Bitcoin, everything kind of crashed after that announcement as well. And Trump has kind of publicly gone out Powell for a while. Do you think that was just
not kind of? He's gone after him hard.
Yeah, is that political theater, or what do you think that is?
I think some of it is theater. I think some of it is real. I've been saying for a year since this started, since he first started going after Powell. I'm like, everybody's like looking at me going, dude, that like Trump is not on board with your thesis. I'm like, no. I'm not saying that, he likes Powell because he doesn't. But Powell's job is to be the scapegoat for Trump to make the argument that the Fed needs to be reformed. Someone has to be the bad guy. Like, Trump is very good at narrative. He's very good at narrative structure. He gets to be the hero at all other times. He gets to be the victim because this is one of the problems. Let's back up for a second. In the entire panoply of Donald Trump as presidential candidate, what has he been the entire time? Narrative sense. He's the villain. He's the villain. He's Orange Hitler. He's this. He's a Russian agent. He's this. He's always the villain. Every day is opposite day in Trump's new America, meaning that every time Trump does anything, the Democrats and the British will always then turn around and just take the opposite position, right? They're very easy to work out. CNN, if Trump is against tariffs, they're for tariffs. Like, that's how we now have shit libs in Minnesota on Facebook in favor of the Second Amendment because that idiot Alex Preddy was carrying a gun. And he had the right to carry a gun because it's the Second Amendment. Like, oh, well, for my next trick, I'm going to get them to renounce single-payer health care. You know what I mean? Like, all he has to do is get... So when you start there, and then you realize that all drama is based on hero, victim, and villain, that there are three things. There are three roles: hero, victim, and villain. And if Trump's always the villain in their narrative, then who's the hero, who's the victim, right? We're the victims, and the proletariat or whomever, the brown people or illegals or whomever are the heroes, right? Well, in Trump, what Trump does is because he's always the villain in the big sense, he then turns to his base and goes, I'm either the hero or the victim. And then he makes somebody else into the villain. Right? That's his whole modus operandi. So Federal Reserve is easy. I'm the hero, Jerome Powell's the villain, and you're the victim. Right? Somalia, I'm the hero, they're the villain, you're the victim, they're the villain. So, the fraudsters, Tim Walz, doesn't matter. And then if they attack Trump, he gets to play the victim card. You get to be the hero to defend him against the external attack. So now let's do the thing with Jerome Powell. If you want to reform the Fed, how do you get there? You get there by saying the Fed is corrupt. You've been thieved, and I'm going to fix it. I'm going to fix it because I need to lower interest rates. I'm going to fix it because we need to we need to stabilize the housing market. We need to figure out ways to get young families into homes so that they can have babies and, raise families and everything else. He ties all of these narratives into the Federal Reserve, which are all right along with waste, fraud, and abuse in Minnesota. And, and he picked on the one aspect of the Federal Reserve that was the easiest thing for him to pick on: a $2.5 billion remodel. which just looks like typical government waste, fraud, and abuse. Even the Federal Reserve's not immune to that, right? I mean, if I'm sitting in the Trump strategy room and he says that, I go, oh, I know, I can see what you're doing. That makes perfect sense. Yes, Mr. President, that's a very good idea. And you can tie it to what we found out in Minnesota, and you can tie it to this, and you can tie it to this, and you can tie it to that. Oh, that's all I ever do. I just sit down. I'm like, okay, so if I was in the room with Donald Trump and he's like doing some random fucking shit, I'm like, why is he doing that? Because he never does anything randomly, you know? So he started picking on Powell in order to start the process of telling the American people, because Brandon, we're weird. We know what the Fed is. We're even weirder in that we know what the Fed does. And then you're like, I'm maximum weird because I know how the Fed operates. The average person doesn't even know what the fucking Fed is. If you ask 50 fucking Americans, 25 of them will say our dollar's backed by gold. Okay? Like, they don't know. It's not like libertarians and Ron Paul have had a huge effect on the world, but they've had enough of an effect to make it into a strong enough argument about the desire to go back to some kind of currency that's tied to a hard asset. Whether it's administered by the Fed or it's not is irrelevant. But if you want to reform the Fed, you got to start the process of letting everybody know that the Fed's been stealing from you, and that central banking is evil. And if Trump really is talking about reinvoking the Hamiltonian platform of national banking, productive economy, blah, 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 tariffs and all of that stuff, then he has to go after the Fed. Even though the Fed has been instrumental, in my argument, instrumental in laying the groundwork to bring Donald Trump back to power. Because without Powell going to 5.5% and draining the fuck out of the Eurodollar system and putting the German economy on its knees and the British and the French and everybody else and forcing them at a very difficult time to defend their currencies and to drain the leverage out of that system and to get SOFR implemented so that we're no longer pricing dollars based on the Eurodollar system, but based on our domestic currency markets or domestic repo markets. Donald Trump doesn't come back to power. If Jerome Powell's not at the Fed, and you know that, and like I listen to Trump like talk about Powell, like he cut interest rates right before the election to try and help. This is the dumbest shit imaginable. Monetary policy takes 6 to 9 months to start filtering through the economy. If Powell wanted Kamala Harris to be president, he would have started cutting rates in March or January. The fact that he held off until September, he nearly torched the fucking American credit system in order to make sure that Kamala Harris wasn't elected president. Because we were starting to see bank runs and stress in the repo markets and every other goddamn thing. So again, whether I know Trump understands all this and he doesn't care. He lies for strategic advantage. I'm not capable of it. I only know how to birth whatever came out of the bowels of my Gen X vitriol, generator, which is like right here every day. That's all I know how to do. But Trump is like, he didn't fucking lie. He'll look right at you and lie. He doesn't give a shit because he's going to lie to find out where your pain point is. He's going to lie to find out how he can get the best out of you in a negotiation. Everything he does is strategic. I made the mistake of not thinking that for years. That was a huge mistake, and I missed a lot of things that he did. And I missed a lot of the reactions, and I didn't understand the reactions against him during his first term. And so I missed how they were walling him off and how they were destroying him. And so, live and learn. That's what the process is, right? So happy to say that I was a retard in 2018, and I'm less of a retard today.
Well, then what is
somehow people still listen to me.
What is the new pick then? Kevin Warsh, because that he seems to be
Oh,
kind
he's a
of.
Trump guy through and through. He's a Hamilton guy through and through. He's gonna cut interest rates. He's gonna shrink the Fed's balance sheet without a doubt. Like, he's going to do what needs to be done. That's what Trump wants. That's, of course, if he's not a red herring.
Dive into that. What do you mean?
Now, why would he be a red herring? Meaning that you can't get that guy through the Senate right now, right? I'm not saying this is operative. I'm not saying this is what's happening. I'm saying this is a possibility. This is scenario. You've got to play the scenario out. And what would the scenario be? The scenario would be, well, he's going to throw Warsh out there because he knows that, everybody hates Warsh, but they can't like turn down 2 Fed chairs. So he loses on Warsh, and then he gets Judy Shelton. I don't know. I don't think it's ever. I don't even believe it's going to be Shelton, to be honest with you. I don't think she was ever really seriously in the running. I think Trump would love to have her on the Federal Reserve Board because he nominated her once. Famously, John McCain, in one of his last acts before his brain tumor heroically gave its life for our country, high-fived with Kamala Harris to block her appointment on the Senate floor. But if Warsh is the real pick, which she probably is, he's going to do exactly what Trump wants him to do, because he's made it abundantly clear that he's going to remove the last vestige of the Fed put under the market. And that means the euro dollar system is in serious trouble. Because if he's not there and wanting to bail out the banks that refuse to clean up their balance sheets on Wall Street, and that would be, in this case, Citi and BOFA, are, in my mind, the 2 that are the most vulnerable. We could see a problem there. But BlackRock just bent the knee. Larry Fink bent the knee at Davos to Trump. I mean, and I've always said that, like, for example, like, everybody, the whole idea of turning BlackRock into this big, boogeyman, as far as I'm concerned, that was always that was, again, another one of these like dumb British tabloid puff jobs. Larry Fink is a guy who's a CEO of a company that has $80 billion on its balance sheet. It's fucking mid-cap. If JP Morgan wants BlackRock's book of business, JP Morgan buys BlackRock's book of business. It's just that simple. And there's nothing fucking Larry Fink can do about it. And if you don't think I'm right about that, then why did Larry Fink bend the fucking knee at Davos about institutional trust and everything else? He was beaten. So was and Mark Carney knew he was beaten the minute the military coup against Xi Jinping failed, and now Carney has to bend the knee. But Carney's too proud to bend the knee fully. He's going to go scorched earth with Canada. He's going to they're going to go scorched earth on Australia. And Starmer's going scorched earth on the Commonwealth. Basically saying, look, if we can't control the colonies, then neither can you. We're going to destroy the people in the process, because these people are fucking Satanists. They're evil. They're not just power hungry. They're evil. And they don't give a shit. And they've threatened us with nuclear war for 75 freaking years. You think they wouldn't sacrifice, 75 or 80 million English people? Really? Really? Okay. 20 or in reality, 20 million Canadians. The other 20 million are poos. The next 40 million are going to be poos, but they're all going to have Canadian passports. Some of them will be Chinese. And I say that with love. There's plenty of, I said, it's terrible. We want to save Canada. We want to liberate Canada. We want to liberate the UK. You want to liberate Ireland. You want to liberate the Australians.
We need
Central
to get
and South America too.
The 51st
that they
state,
need to be
right?
liberated. There's only and we're watching Central and South America like liberate themselves. Bukele in El Salvador. There's what's this new one in Costa Rica? Was it Costa Rica the other day? I mean, start looking at, Scheinbaum is already basically asking for help with the cartels in order to be free in Mexico, right? Cuba's now starting to negotiate. Like it's coming. This old world of these evil colonial powers. What I see this morning with France, that the French are actively, French intelligence, French military actively, have a list drawn up of the Russians. By the way, are putting this information out. It's fucking hilarious about how the French intelligence are drawing up lists of unacceptable African leaders. Right? Like, what are you going to do about that, Manny? After you get pegged one more time, like seriously.
I want to dive
This
into
is the world we live in. I'm not even like the sad part about it is when I make a joke like that, when I say something like that, it's not, you laugh because you know it's true.
Yeah, some messed
It's
up things.
pathetic.
You said something about the banks, though. I want to dive into that before we get into like kind of the geopolitical angle, because you said like what'd you say? Bank of America potentially is the most vulnerable.
Bank of America and Citigroup are both the ones with the deepest ties. I mean, you see it. People talking about it everywhere. Who's short in the silver market, who's got problems, and who's got ties to the European banking system, and whatnot. You just know that it's out there, and that's my inference. That's my read on the situation. It's been that way for a long time, and I ask the simple question all the time. I ask a simple question, right? Here's one. BOFA has known that this has been coming for years. It's not like the management of BOFA and Citigroup didn't know that Trump was, one, coming back to power, two, was having the red carpet laid out for him by Morgan and Morgan Stanley and Goldman and everybody else, right? All those other banks were lining up to assist Powell to ensure that Trump comes back to power. And why are they still sitting on massive derivative books if the European banking system implodes? It's because they're still fucking traitors, is why. They should have cleaned their balance sheets up. They've had 7 years to do it, and they haven't done it. Why? Because they want to blow up. They want to be a ticking time bomb. It's the only way you can, it's the only conclusion you can draw. Oh, if you don't play ball, we'll blow up BOFA by tea time. Fuck you, Keir Starmer. Hey, Andrew Bailey, bend over. No. Worship the freaking Federal Reserve. They're not going to get a bailout. And if they do, it'll be partial. The next time one of their institutions blows up, it won't be 2008, where we nationalize Fannie and Freddie, let Lehman go, and bail out fucking London's AIG, which is what we did. Who did that? Bush and Obama. That's who did it. John McCain, Mitt Romney, Geithner, Paulson. They bailed out fucking London. AIG was designed the way AIG. Go back and watch. I watched the thing by Hester Pierce, who, by the way, is now part of the Trump administration, when she was at George Mason University talking about all this. And it kept went on an entire forensic discovery of historical look at how AIG built the balance sheet that it built. And then asked the very simple question, why did we bail out AIG multiple times? Why wasn't it broken up into good parts and bad parts? Why was it made whole? These people use blackmail and misdirection. AIG was bailed out because London blew it up on purpose. Their balance sheet was designed, their MBS like layers and all this crap that they had on their balance, it was all designed to blow up. And then Bernanke raises interest rates, ensuring that it blows up. And then Lehman is left to twist in the fucking wind while AIG gets everything. And we wind up with a nationalized Fannie and Freddie, City of London in charge of our fucking yield curve, and Obama, the friggin' square mile candidate as president, who then nationalizes fucking healthcare and leaves us at the zero bound for a friggin' decade and destroys the structure of the dollar and destroys the middle class. Like, we don't need to go any farther than that. If BOFA and Citigroup blow up, it'll be because they're the last things to blow up. Everything else is just a chase scene at this point. There's not that much more to say. Are they or are they not going to be able to pull these pins on these grenades and throw them at us? Bassett and Trump are saying they can't, because we know where these problems are and we will just shut them down. We will boomerang them back onto you, and you will go bankrupt this time because no one's going to be there, because the U.S. taxpayer is not going to save you. Which is why they haven't done it yet. Which is why gold is $5,000 an ounce and the system hasn't imploded. I mean, remember Rick Rule used to say, like, I believe that the $10,000 an ounce gold is possible. I don't want to live in that world, because that implies Mad Max and living off of, canned sardines and trading toilet paper and, primers. But that's not what happened. It didn't happen because the United States didn't play ball all the way to the end. So if you want to understand, if you want to go back to your original question as to why why all of this, because the United States still has dominance in military, economy, infrastructure, this, that, everything else. All we have to do is start producing shit again. All we have to do is stop bitching at ourselves about, being stupid, and just show up for fucking work for once. It's not hard, folks. Everybody else is just far worse off than we are. The Chinese have built so much, they have so much malinvestment. It's not funny. And I've never wanted to believe this. I've always been the skeptic on the whole China's going to collapse theory. Have been for years. I've been surrounded by China hawks my entire professional career. And I'm like, not going to buy that until I actually see evidence of it. And China's standing down at every one of these geopolitical dust-ups that Trump has dealt with. Tells me, yeah, they're far more vulnerable than we thought they were. Yeah. Okay.
Where does Latin America play in this?
They're just the next area to be liberated. The United States is taking control of its borders. It's got a problem. It has to deal with. It has to get control of the Great Lakes. It has to get control of the West Coast. Go look at a map of the United States. Go look at where all the blue state governors are. Central and South America are easy. Fix it. Get rid of London. Get rid of the drug trade. Get rid of the human trafficking. Get rid of all that shit. It's already done. It's the Gulf of America. It sounded stupid when he did it, but he did it on purpose. This was Trump's way of saying, because fuck you, that's why. I'm sorry, what? We're America. Well, how can you change that? Because fuck you, that's why. It's not the Gulf of Mexico. It's the Gulf of America. Why? Because fuck you.
Well, there we go. So then
Venezuela. Same thing with Latin America, because fuck you, we're going to liberate you people. We're not playing the same games that we played before. You guys don't have to play this game. I'm telling you, after Cuba, it's going to be all the offshore tax havens, the Caymans, the British Virgin Islands, Bahamas, Bermuda, all that shit. It's all going to, we're going to roll all that up. That's next. And Canada. Alberta may be part of the United States by the end of the year, depending on how the things go domestically in the United States.
Was Venezuela just the start then?
Yes. Venezuela was the linchpin to all the bullshit in Latin America and in the Western Hemisphere. Everything crosses in Venezuela. All the organized crime, all the cash money flowing around the world, all the illicit oil trading, all of the drug trafficking and the human trafficking and all of it. It all flowed out of Venezuela. And Maduro was the figurehead. And so Trump went and plucked him using the outstanding warrant for him. Because Maduro also has all the thumb drives of all the shit that was done that went through Venezuela. Man, a week later, 2 weeks later, Tulsi Gabbard is along with the FBI serving a warrant for all of the 2020 election records. If you don't think that was not a massive message to every shitbag rhino in Congress and the Senate, I don't know how I don't know how anybody would call themselves a domestic political analyst. Because clearly, that's what that was. The Georgia GOP is dirty, and they fucked him over in Georgia. And then had the goddamn nerve to sue him. Yeah, Raffensperger, both fucking senators, Warnock and Ossoff, all of it. Every bit of it. Marjorie Taylor, drama queen, knee pads, like all of it. Every fucking bit of it. I can't wait to watch go on The View again. I can't wait for her to start a podcast. It's going to be great.
Tom, you've always been generous with your time. Why don't you tell people where they can find out more about you and read more of your work, see all the great videos and content you're putting out?
Well, I mean, as always, you can follow the podcast and the newsletter over at tomluongo.me. You can follow me on Twitter at TFL1728, which is where that's where you're going to get my running commentary on a daily basis. And then, Patreon/Gold Goats and Guns, which is where I take care of my patrons and how we pay the bills and how we do the thing. So you can sign up for the newsletter or just the market reports, and either way, we still keep it. It's still unbelievably cheap. And I think I need to deal with that problem, but that's a different thing. That's a different discussion for a different day. So with that being said, for the price of a cup of coffee, a bad cup of coffee at Starbucks, not even a latte. Come on, give it up. So there you go.
Tom, you're a legend. Thanks so much, brother.
Thank you.
Thank you guys all for tuning in to another great episode of the State of Bitcoin podcast. If you found some value in this one, please hit that subscribe button and that like button to help send this one to the masses. And I've got a surprise for you guys. I've got 2 more episodes that you have the chance to watch here. So go ahead and click one of them, and I'll see you guys all at the next one.